It's funny how you look back at, like, old photos and see something that's suddenly trendy again.
Hmm.
I get that exact same vibe when I look at older video games, these retro games.
Yeah.
It's kind of surprising how many ideas from way back then feel like, wow, like blueprints for games today. And even some tech we use.
It really is pretty remarkable, isn't it, when you look past the pixels, the blocky graphics.
Right.
You find these really elegant designs, these core concepts that developers, well, they're still borrowing from them now.
So were they just geniuses working with, like, really basic tools? Or maybe lucky?
That's sort of the question, isn't it? Were they just incredibly innovative because of the constraints?
That's exactly the rabbit hole we're planning to dive down today. We've got some really interesting stuff here, pulling from a show called Pixel Profits.
Okay.
And our mission really is to unpack those connections,
Yeah.
between that retro era and the tech and trends shaping things right now.
Right, to see how deep that influence actually goes.
Exactly. We want to give everyone, hopefully, a fresh perspective on how powerful those old ideas still are.
So let's start with the basics then. Why do these old games still grab people? It's got to be more than just nostalgia, right?
Oh, definitely more. I mean, you see people actively firing up emulators or those mini consoles.
Yeah, even when they have a PS5 or a high-end PC sitting right there.
Totally. I was playing an old platformer the other day, super simple graphics, but the gameplay loop was it was tight, really engaging.
And the Pixel Profits material kind of hits on that, doesn't it? Suggests those hardware limits actually force developers to perfect the mechanics.
Yeah, they couldn't rely on flashy visuals, so the fun had to come from the core design.
Yeah,
Gameplay first.
precisely. And that focus led to some incredibly satisfying loops. They mentioned that easy-to-learn, hard-to-master idea. Think about Tetris.
Oh yeah, perfect example. Anyone can play in like 30 seconds.
But getting really good, that takes serious skill. Strategy.
Right.
And what's interesting is seeing that philosophy pop up elsewhere, like take an app like Duolingo.
The language learning one. How so?
Well, it's super easy to start, right? Very welcoming. But as you go deeper, it gets more complex, more challenging. It's using that same kind of hook, keep them engaged.
That's a great point. And it's not just, people our age feeling this pull.
No, not at all.
You've got these mini consoles, the NES Classic, the SNES Classic.
Mm.
They flew off the shelves.
Mm-hmm. Sold like crazy.
And younger players are finding games like Pac-Man, Donkey Kong. They're discovering them now and loving them. So it's
What?
hitting something fundamental.
That's a really key observation. It makes you wonder just how deep this influence runs. The Pixel Profits notes even hinted that these games might have planted seeds for current tech.
Like VR, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. They sort of toyed with the idea. Imagine Pac-Man, but fully immersive VR. Walk in the maze yourself.
Whoa. Okay, yeah. It's like giving these simple concepts a whole new dimension with today's tech.
So they still appeal, they're still relevant. But let's dig into the mechanics. How did these old games literally invent stuff we take for granted now?
Okay, this is where the lineage gets really clear. The notes point straight at Metal Gear, the original one, 1987.
Right. Most games then were run and gun, direct confrontation.
But Metal Gear was different. It was all about avoiding the fight, stealth.
Sneaking past guards, using cover. That wasn't really the core of action games back then, was it?
Not at all. It feels like Hideo Kojima basically sketched out the entire stealth genre right there.
The Pixel Profits material calls it the blueprint, doesn't it?
Yeah, the blueprint for massive franchises, Assassin's Creed, Hitman. They all owe a huge debt to Solid Snake.
Yeah.
The original sneaker.
Totally. And if we're talking blueprints, what about exploring the world? Think The Legend of Zelda, 1986.
Oh, absolutely. Giving players this big interconnected map. Even from that top-down view, it felt huge. Felt like discovery.
It's kind of a straight line from that feeling to the massive open worlds we get now, isn't it? Games like Elden Ring.
Totally. That sense of being dropped in, minimal guidance. Just go explore. Uncover the world. And the notes mentioned something else about Zelda that was really ahead of its time. Environmental storytelling.
Ah, yes. Instead of just text dumps or cutscenes.
Right. The world itself told the story, the way things looked, where items were placed, how characters reacted. Subtle stuff.
It's a really powerful technique. You see it refined in modern masterpieces like Hollow Knight. That world just breathes its history, its sadness through the environment.
It's amazing seeing those threads connect across, what, decades? Okay, can't talk retro influence without the big one. Doom, 1993.
Doom, fast, frantic, and multiplayer.
That was the game changer, wasn't it? Online multiplayer.
Absolutely pivotal. The idea you could connect over a modem, play with or against other actual people. It was revolutionary then.
Mind-blowing at the time.
And it completely shaped how we think about online gaming. It laid the groundwork for the huge communities around Fortnite, Call of Duty, all of it.
And it wasn't just playing. The Pixel Profits notes really highlight the Doom community and modding.
Oh yeah, that's crucial. People making their own levels, their own changes to the game, WAD files.
They were basically the first wave of user-generated content creators, weren't they?
In a big way, yes. Players weren't just playing, they were building, creating, sharing. It foreshadowed the whole modding scene, the creator economy, these huge ripples from one game.
It really makes you think about how small innovations back then just exploded later on.
Mm-hmm.
So let's maybe shift gears a little. What about games that seem to, like, predict future technologies?
Okay, yeah. The notes bring up Second Life, 2003.
Yeah.
Which feels recent-ish, but in tech years.
Ancient, especially with all the Metaverse talk now.
Exactly. What's compelling about Second Life is that core idea. Users building worlds, creating avatars, interacting, even having economies.
Right, a persistent virtual world.
That's essentially the pitch for the metaverse concepts we're hearing about from, big tech companies now. It's like Second Life was the early experiment, sketching it out before the tech was really ready.
Years ahead of the curve. Okay, what else? Pokémon, 1996.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. That simple link cable, trading Pokemon with your friend.
How does that connect? Seems pretty basic.
But think about the core idea. Interacting with digital creatures, but tied to a physical action, a physical connection, bringing the digital into the real world, sort of.
I see where you're going. Like a precursor to AR, augmented reality.
Kind of. It's a conceptual stepping stone to something like Pokemon Go, where you're finding digital things overlaid on the real world via your phone. It was a very early, clunky blend, but the seed of the idea was there.
Wow, okay. Never thought of it like that. And the notes even connect retro gaming to blockchain, NFTs.
Yeah, that's a newer angle. They mentioned Pac-Man NFTs specifically.
So like digital collectibles of Pac-Man.
Exactly. Using blockchain to prove ownership and scarcity of these bits of, quote, pixel art history, it's a whole new way to think about collecting and owning classic game assets.
Definitely a modern twist.
Yeah.
Okay, and one more predictor, SimCity, 1989.
Oh, yeah. Loved that game. Me too. Sunk so many hours into building my perfect city. Or, unleashing disasters.
Uh-huh. Right. But that core loop, designing, managing resources, dealing with problems like traffic.
The notes mention the weird fun of fixing traffic jams.
It's true. That satisfaction is still there in modern games like Cities, Skylines. SimCity basically wrote the rule book for that whole genre.
Okay, so we've seen the influence on huge AAA games, on future tech. What about the indie scene? Casual games.
That's another huge area. The Pixel Profits stuff really emphasizes how many popular indie games today deliberately use a retro style.
Right, the pixel art aesthetic is everywhere. Games like Stardew Valley, Shovel Knight.
And they're massively successful. People love them. It's tapping into that nostalgia, sure, but also they often refine those old ideas.
The notes had a great line about Stardew Valley. Like, it has the charm of old Harvest Moon games, but with Netflix-level bingeability, which is so true. It just hooks you.
It really does. It takes that comforting formula and polishes it perfectly for today. Makes it super smooth, super engaging. And then a game like Celeste. Beautiful pixel art, but the gameplay.
Tough as nails. Really challenging platforming.
Yeah, it feels like a direct callback to those super hard NES classics, doesn't it?
Definitely. It proves you don't need photorealism to make something compelling and artistic. Strong design and vision win out.
And what about Among Us? Huge hit, relatively simple graphics.
Right. The core there is social deduction. Like a party game, almost Mafia or Werewolf, but digital.
So it's about the interaction, the gameplay systems, not the visuals.
Exactly. It shows that smart design focusing on how players interact can be massive without needing a Hollywood budget. Indie devs are constantly proving that these retro design ideas can be rebooted really successfully.
So wrapping this deep dive up then, it feels pretty clear that these old games, these retro titles, they weren't just, quaint little things from the past.
Not at all. They weren't just products of their time or their limits. In so many ways, they really did lay the foundation, the groundwork for what gaming is now.
And even influence tech way beyond gaming.
Yeah, those ripples spread out surprisingly far. From From hints of VR and arcade concepts to AR roots in a Pokémon cable.
To blockchain giving new life to Pac-Man collectibles.
It's pervasive. Their influence is undeniable, really.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? It's
Mm.
like the next time you play something simple, an old classic, maybe Mario, maybe Tetris,
Mm-hmm.
you're not just playing a game, you're kind of interacting with the DNA of future innovation. Maybe even a bit of prophecy, like those Pixel Prophets guys said.
It's a great way to put it. It reminds us that innovation isn't always some brand new bolt from the blue. Often it's about building on ideas, reinterpreting them, evolving them.
Yeah.
And the legacy of retro games, it's a pretty powerful reminder of that good ideas and